take vote order. Today is at 7:02. It's the Public Safety Committee in Bill Perillo. And looking for someone to approve the minutes from last February. We're recording this too now, right there. And what's that?
I did hit the record button, so we should be recording.
Okay. All right, good. Last month we had a little clerical mix-up. We didn't really do it last month, so for someone to accept approval of minutes from February 2020.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you, Paul. Anybody second that?
I'll second. Laura Dancia.
Thank you. All right. As normal, we're going to go with the reports from the departments. Dispatch report.
Dispatch.
Good evening. Monday evening, we had a Viper phone upgrade scheduled. That is the 911 system, the 911 phone system. This is paid for by the state. It's a standard upgrade just to keep the system running at the current version. That upgrade was scrubbed last minute by the state. I expect it to happen very shortly because the entire state is getting this update. Dispatch was migrated to the new town servers. The migration took longer than expected, but there were no major issues. It has provided some speed enhancements. We did fill the full-time position actually during the storm. So that worked out very well. We've already seen some improvements to overtime. And for anybody on AT&T FirstNet, there was an AT&T tower, FirstNet tower upgrade in Stratford specifically this week. So that should help us long term. For our storm response, we processed about 1680 calls between August 4th and August 6th, which is about a 109% increase from our normal volume. On the busiest day, we did about 765 calls, which is about a 236% increase to day-to-day operations. As I said, we had an additional dispatcher as well as supervisors in the room for the entire time, so it ended up, it was crazy. We were also fielding calls from other towns that were rolling over to us, but everything got handled. The dispatchers did an amazing job, and everything went okay. So that's all I have for you.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for the dispatch report?
Oh, right. Good.
The police department report. No. Or anyone? All right, we'll see if we get a copy of the report. Maybe we'll have Larry get us a copy of the report and send us. All right. Fire department?
Bill?
Yeah.
I submitted all those reports to you already, so you have a PD, fire, and dispatch already.
Yeah, I just was going to see if they're going to present it, or if anybody on the committee has any questions. Right.
Yep. Just.
Hang on 1 second. Hello.
Where will we?
What's that? Oh, okay. Okay, let me tell Mike. I'm sorry about that. Hang on. Okay. Joe's on mute. Can someone unmute him? I forgot which caller number he was. Mike, maybe.
Yeah, you on?
Go ahead, Joe.
Yeah.
Stay here.
ago, he just called. I don't know what number he is, what caller number he is. Maybe Carlo 104. The other two are off me.
It's like caller 5.
Oh, he's caller 5?
I think so.
There's nothing wrong with that.
All right, can you hear me now?
There you go, that's good. Gotcha.
All right. So mute everybody else.
All right.
Okay. All right. So I submitted a report. We have a 50% drop in crime from last year at this time. We probably will see an increase this month, especially with the larceny from motor vehicles, stolen vehicles. However, we made at least 8 arrests in that area. Some of the press releases we have put out about that, but people still have to not leave their keys in the car, etc. And they just got to make themselves a harder target. We're also progressing very rapidly on the PAL building. It's all up. It's going to start doing the enclosure, which is a siding, and closing that up. So we're really gearing very quickly to full classrooms, after class stuff, homework, help, and things like that at the police station, which I think is a really great thing. We're still dealing with some issues, not as severe in Lordship, but not like they were. It's certainly abated. Like we don't have the influx of New Yorkers like we did. I think most of the people that see it on New York plates are actually people that moved into town. We have seen a lot of that. But overall, no problems with bicycles this year. And I got to say, we were pretty lucky. We avoided a lot of the issues that area towns have had. And that's about it.
All right. Any questions or comments for the chief? All right, moving along, the fire department report.
All right, I hope everybody's doing well. I submitted a report for your viewing. I'll be happy to answer questions on that. But to sum it up, the storm damage, we could talk about that a little bit. The hurricane came through, and in a 2-day period, we responded to 173 alarms. Most of them were trees down on houses and or power lines. We did run some medicals and some fire alarms that were associated with the storm. Glad to report that the Huntington Road Firehouse renovation is about complete. And I say about because there's a little bit of odds and ends that the town workers are going to address. But that's almost complete. And the Lordship Firehouse is in the process of being worked on, with a new HVAC system going in, some painting going on, kind of bringing it up into the somewhat of a dated time. So bringing us into the 80s, I guess. We are fully staffed in the fire marshal's office now, so we hopefully we can get out and make a big dent in inspections that we haven't hit in a long time. So that's all I got to offer.
All right. Any comments for the fire chief or questions?
I just have a question for Larry really quick about the school SRO officers. Are they going to be trained? I think I saw on one of those reports that training school safety meetings, is that the same thing or no?
Well, part of my report was going to address the school stuff. So is it all right to wait until my turn, and then I'll bring all that up to speed?
Of course.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions for the fire, we are on your report, Larry. So go ahead.
Yes, that was a good segue, Laura.
Sorry.
So two topics I'll talk about, the big items. One is the schools, and they're progressing very slowly when it comes to addressing the COVID operations within the school. I've met with other school districts, other police departments, and they all seem to be in the same boat. There's a lot of idiosyncrasies in the operation that on face value makes sense, but once you add another child that may be sick, or that there is an unexpected fire alarm, may throw a wrench in it due to a lot of excessive paneling in the schools,
to these isolation chambers that have limited space in them, and it's all going to still be worked itself out, I hope. Regarding training, that's always an issue. I mean, the SRO is superbly trained. The security staff in the schools are not. Not that they're not professional. What they do is that each school acts as its own individual fight zone. And because of that, each school security staff is trained and directed by that principal or school CEO in a way that they want them to be utilized. So there's no standardization there. We're trying to work every year to create some standardization. I hope this year I can make some more inroads into that. The mayor's been extremely supportive in driving me on that and trying to work with the school superintendent and the school board to assist me on that. So, more to follow on that. Regarding the storm, just a couple major notes. Stratford Public Works has done an incredible job of clearing and moving debris. Stratford Public Safety Departments, in particular, all of them, in fact, fire, dispatch, police, they did an amazing job during especially the first 48, 72 hours of the storm. It was absolutely chaos. I sent some notes along with my email earlier in the day. There was, probably in the neighborhood of 45 major blockages with up to over 100 minor blockages of roads. Most of the major blockages of roads going north, south, and east and west were cleared within the first 48 hours. I'm doing a initial damage assessment now. It's due to actually tomorrow to FEMA. I don't see a lot from a homeowner perspective. There is some businesses with some damage, and then we also have the issue of the working with UI during the storm, and there were issues there. That needs to get ironed out. Some major problems there. So, any questions?
I have a question, and maybe this isn't the right time, and it's probably go to you and to Chief McNeil. We've seen some talk and some rhetoric about the SROs in the school, and I understand that there's probably different communities that have different relationships with their SROs. But my time on the job, Paul knows the same, and Jimmy, who's here. I think they are exactly what they are. They're a huge resource to the schools. Is there any talk of we losing that? Is that a state issue, or was that just national political talk?
I think, I won't comment from Joe's perspective, but mine is that's a national talk right now. That's coming from our Senator Murphy on a national level. I don't think that's a state level, unless Joe knows something different. I've not heard anything state.
Yeah, that was absolutely, that was certainly what Senator Murphy did, was blindsided every single police department in the state, and actually angered us a bit because it showed a complete lack of knowledge or caring of exactly what we do in the school systems. But either way, we're always prepared. Our SROs are actually working with identifying kids that need help and identifying families that need extra services. So we actually send officers, SROs, to the house to talk to mom and see what we could do to help these kids come into some of our programs. And this is going to be how we're going to bring kids into our after-school homework help, which I think will be a great help to everybody in our Stratford school system. So, and part of that is getting this PAL building going, is going to be part of that. There's going to be a lot of classrooms in there. So I think Senator Murphy was just, pandering to a set that he thinks is going to help him in re-election. It was unfortunate. It was very short-sighted, and it doesn't really reflect of what we're doing. And quite frankly, I got to say Stratford is very far ahead of the curve than anybody else in the state.
Good. So we're keeping our SROs. And I just want to go back with the police department report, more a compliment. Every Tuesday I go to the Green where they have the concerts at the Green. I'll be down there later tonight. And I get a lot of good feedback from everyone in my district. Good exposure of the few bike cops that are down there. I see them taking pictures with the kids and interacting, and they're at the Green. They're during the bands. I've seen them at the seawall. I've seen them at the farmers market, and I've talked to a few of them, and they find time to do a lot of community policing, and they've done some proactive enforcement too. I think it's a good program. I know it's at the end of the summer. Could this be expanded down the road for maybe next season?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I like it.
Yeah, it's great. You're right on target. Yeah.
Yep, and I'm getting good feedback. I don't know about the other councilors, but I get a lot of good feedback. All right, any other questions for Larry or the rest of the chiefs that are here? All right, on the agenda, I had tropical storm response. I don't know if I just really wanted to compliment on how all of our public safety responded and public works. We talked about it briefly, and I was knocked over by some of the numbers at the last council meeting. The mayor brought up some of the stats that you guys have covered, and it's just not one just big pat on the back for a storm that came in here and really whipped things up. Our public safety crew and our public works really got ahead of it, and we got with a lot of not a lot of problems. So I just want to give a thank you for all you guys and putting the right guys around the clock that worked it. So that's why I had that on the agenda, but I think all of the reports covered that, so I don't think we have to stick on that. All right, moving through the agenda. I had Larry and myself, and just not email savvy, try to send out to everybody on the committee some ideas about a golf cart ordinance. And I don't want to get anywhere too far with it tonight. There's a lot to absorb on the few examples of different ordinances in different communities that was provided to Chris Pia and myself. And I'm not speaking for the police, but in my opinion, something to think about is the ordinance, because that really frees up any discretion if it's black and white. And so talking to a few people, obviously it's a selected areas because these has restrictions that you can't be on any state road. So looking over at some of the other ordinances for smaller communities, but beach communities, and listening to some people and talking to Chris Pierre, where there's a huge request for out in Lordship there. If there's things that we like or don't like in some of those other ordinances, we're able to carve out even more stricter rules and guidelines and violations and restrictions than what the state has as a minimal. And some of this could actually be a revenue maker for us. And if we looked at things like 18 and older, you have to have a driver's license. We wouldn't have 15-year-olds out there, and a high fine. I'm just talking out, $500 fine, or whatever that we can make as an ordinance to discourage bad behavior on one of these. But there are a few people that went out of their way and put together very comprehensive request for us to look at it. Obviously, what this committee does with it, and we'll bring it up again next month. And I don't plan on one way or the other getting to it by the end of this summer. So it really isn't pressing right now, but there's a lot to absorb. But I'm not saying I'm for or against it. I want to hear as a committee, because we're all pretty good representing ourselves here for public safety and comparing to what some other communities are using, what we think about it, because the council that will set the ordinances, if it goes that way, and the council is going to want to hear from different committees that may need to hear, and public safety be one of them. So I sent out some of the proposals or some of the examples of other ordinances in the community, and I'm looking forward to hearing a good conversation if it's something we think we want or something we don't want. I'm not making any promises to anybody. I'm not for or against. I'm probably more for it, but that doesn't matter. I have a place down in Myrtle Beach. That's just the golf cart world down there. It's fun. It's not Stratford. It's it's the beach world down there. But so when you got time, just go over those ordinances, the examples of ordinances in other committees, and I want to see if we can have a conversation working from that. But to that point, it's still open for discussion right now if anybody has anything they want to say.
I just have one question. I read the letter from the resident, Ms. Burr, and I'm just I'm just wondering why, like, I think it's fun, I guess. I'm just wondering, why does Stratford need this now?
I don't
I
have
mean,
an
it's
answer.
for
I
a
just think,
select area. It's not any, I don't know. I just don't understand why this would be necessary anyway. Maybe because I don't live there, but so I'm just trying to understand what
I think I could probably answer some of
for
that.
this now.
Can you hear me?
I talked to Chris Pia, and this may be a reason. He suspects he has a number of somewhere between 90 and 100 golf carts, maybe, of the Lordship residents. They're purchasing them. They're driving them without being an ordinance. They're taking their chances on it. And if we had rules and laws to enforce what could be the dangerous part, we could list streets where they're only allowed to operate. The state law says they cannot. They can drive through a state road. They cannot travel on a state road. So literally, to get out of Lordship, they wouldn't get out of Lordship.
So this would be to like just go to the beach in your golf cart or go to the golf course in your golf cart, because you couldn't, the ordinance, the state statute says that you wouldn't be able to use them after dark. So
Right.
You wouldn't take them out to dinner or something. But so this is just to let people use golf carts within that little section for a certain period of time. Seasonally too. I'm assuming this wouldn't go through the winter. You wouldn't be doing this in the winter. So this would be a summer seasonal daytime thing for a section of Stratford.
Yeah, I mean, seasonal. I don't know if it'd be seasonal. Obviously, the operator would choose not probably be in the snow in it. I don't know.
Put snow tires on those things.
Yeah, I don't know.
Hey, Bill,
Yes, go ahead.
Bill, can you hear me?
Yep,
All right.
go ahead.
So why did this come up? That's a great question. What happened was because we had an influx of New Yorkers coming into Lordship, and so we started enforcing more the rules. We also put up more no parking signs. But what we saw was all these golf carts. The golf carts are all over. They're going at night. They're driven by young kids. So we enforce the rule. We got to enforce it equally and fairly. I think it was like the big secret in Stratford that they had golf carts. I'm really neutral on it. I'm just whatever the public and the citizens of Stratford want. However, this is not just about Lordship. This is all of Stratford. You can't just do it for one part of it. It's going to be everywhere.
I mean,
So
I live in the
that in mind.
so I couldn't drive my golf cart to the beach from where I live.
Right. But that means that you could go anywhere. You could be up in the north end, you can be up in Paradise Green, and you can technically drive the golf cart. So it's not just Lordship, it's going to be, all of Stratford. And that's fine, but you got to have some pretty strict rules on when it can be operated and how it's going to be operated, who can operate it, and know that there's going to be a lot of violations. There's just no doubt about it.
Do you feel this would be an extra burden on the police department, or do you think it would be better to regulate it since people seem to be doing it anyway?
I really think you should just regulate it really well and make the penalty very harsh. And that would keep it in check, I would think, to, at least not violating, the restrictions that are in place already. And that is driving at night. That's it's a big problem. But, on the other end, we have these scooters out in town and that's legal. So, one point there's a sect that wants scooters banned, but they want, golf carts legal. I'm just looking at something that should be fair across the board, that's easily manageable. And if there's people that are not abuse it, they really should be punished for it.
I agree. I think $500 fine, tow the golf cart, first offense. You know what I mean? If there's, it's not, a golf cart's $6,000. They're not an $800 scooter. So not to say who's going to be driving golf carts, but they're not as. But from my understanding from Chris Pia's suspicion, there could be 100 golf carts in Lordship. They're going to drive them anyway, and I feel that and I'm not saying that they should be doing it and lawlessly, but there could be, we could set something up. Every year you have to pay $100 registration with the rec department or whatever to operate it. It has to have seatbelts and it can't be on the road an hour before dusk and dawn, or some regulations like that. And like Chief McNeil said, and if you violate it, then you'll have a severe revenue-making penalty to it. And
So my concern is, like, I want to stay open-minded about it. I just feel that a lot of our police resources are already in the Lordship area, and we have the rest of the town to also require police presence. So I'm happy to look at this further. Everyone else just, I mean, Lordship is Stratford, and we're all Stratford, and I think that we just need to have a comprehensive thing that benefits everyone and not just a select group of people.
I 100% agree with you. I'm not trying to say Lordship because I always feel we're just one community. There's no Roanoke, there's no Lordship, it's Stratford.
Right, exactly.
But we're the more desirable roads to use it. A recreational vehicle like that would probably be more realistically in that beach area part of town as opposed to Broadbridge Avenue, where they can't go on those roads anyway. I live in the green. I wouldn't take it to go get
Take it
pizza.
to the concert tonight. You could take it to the concert.
I need to walk anyway.
It'll be dark. It'll be dark.
Hey, Bill, there's another point too, is when people provide evidence to other communities that have these golf carts, and these people I've talked to over the last couple of weeks, they show evidence with communities that are designed differently than our Lordship area is, where golf carts are more conducive and easier to drive based on the design of the community, the width of the roads, the type of setup of the beach community. So a lot of these comparisons aren't really relevant to what we need. I mean, we don't have those designs. I mean, there's not a beach nook. There are major roads go in and around, in roads that are two-way traffic in and around all the way up to the beach. So that just has to be taken into consideration too. It's not apples to apples.
No, I know that, and nothing will ever be. We're a large town to have a beach community. Some of the other communities are half our size in population, but their population's double in the summer. There's a lot of rental play, and we have people renting in our cottage areas that are not residents, or they use them for the summertime. And again, some of the information provided to me in the past were in these communities, when it was regulated and enforced, they've had very little to no accidents and injuries and damaged property. So I'm not saying they should. I just, as a committee, I want to discuss the safety part of it.
Okay.
And if we feel the only thing as our committee could do is recommend to the council if they're going to consider the ordinance. This committee is not going to consider it. But if we look at what other communities are doing and we feel that the regulations are tough enough where they can't be on roads that are going to be over 20 miles an hour, 25 miles an hour, and the fines are, we would hope, enough to discourage bad usage of a recreational vehicle like this, then we could say the Public Safety Committee doesn't have a huge beef with the ordinance proposal. And then that, and then the councilmen vote on it. And, there's some parts of town that some of the councilmen ain't going to have any golf cart life ever, and then there's other parts that Chris Pierre hears about it every day, and it was a rotten shake for our cops to get beat up a little bit in social media for doing their job. The cops didn't do anything wrong. It came down to talking about comparing the golf cart violators to the gangs of these motorcycles that come through on Sunday and doing wheelies and wrecking up Barnum and Main and everything else, and then that's totally not what that was about. And the cops were completely in the right, and they're legally, they don't belong on our road. So if we're going to have golf carts in town, I don't want to put the cops through extra efforts, constantly getting beat up in social media, where I'd rather see the operators pay a severe fine for their bad use of a recreational vehicle. But I want to look at it on the safety issue. I want to look over some of the other town ordinances, take in consideration our town's double the size of most of these beach towns. But you're right. All of a sudden, it's a new conversation. But I don't plan on having them. It's August, and I think the season's just about over. So I'm not looking to put this forward. But Chris Pia had told me it's his district that mostly is active, and I promised him that we would talk about it, and we're talking about it. So something to digest, and then we can maybe take some notes and have a little different discussion next month when it comes to that. But to be fair, I just wanted to put it on the table and then everybody take a look at it.
I think Jim is trying to say something.
You on mute, Jim? Are you on mute? Hang on. Can't hear you. He is trying to say something.
Yeah.
I'll text him. No.
Okay, now, can you hear me now?
You got it. Yep, go ahead.
Perfect. Yeah,
Go.
I had 2 points I wanted to make, actually. One of them, I think maybe Chief McNeil can help with. I was reading the state law that required, that brought about the towns being able to regulate the golf carts. And it did mention insurance, and it did state that that was up to the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. But it didn't enumerate it anywhere in the legislation exactly what the requirements were. What are the requirements for insurance on them? What are the limits and things like that? Obviously, what Larry had been saying before about this being a different community than, let's say, Old Saybrook and Groton and all, that's very true, where a lot of those areas where the golf carts are being used are on dead end areas where you're not getting commercial traffic, you're not getting, you know, the type of traffic we see down in Lordship and other parts of town where this might come about, where you're going to have a lot of interaction with golf carts and large vehicles. That's why I think it's hard to say from the information we were given in those notes that there have been no injuries. Well, it's also not apples to apples here either. You know, I think we have to also look into where has it been where we've got the same kind of a setup that there have been injuries, there have been accidents, and what can we look at from there? You know, that's just something that we have to look into before we can really make an informed decision as a committee on this.
I think that's highly accurate. I mean, there's a lot we have to look at, but as far as the insurance requirement, there is, I don't believe there's any requirement to get insured. So, but it's,
No,
but you could dictate,
Right.
you could dictate what you want. Yeah,
We could do what we want.
exactly.
So we could
Right,
say,
exactly.
you know, they would have to go and carry $30,000-$40,000 worth of insurance or whatever that would cost, $200 a year. One of the persons that gave us a proposal said that there are some insurance companies for $150 a year provide comprehensive coverage for like what a car would cost. Yeah, we can, and that's what I'm all about. If it's something we consider, and I'm not trying to be the buzzkill, but I'm saying that our penalties and our regulations would definitely be much stronger than what the state's minimal is. And they,
Hey, Bill, can I make a suggestion though? If we ever do decide, make it just like provisional, like just a test, you know, see how it works out. And if there's something we can tweak, we can tweak. If not, and it doesn't work out, we can just, you know, forget about it. I mean, I'm not opposed to just doing like, you know, a test period to see if it actually works and we can control it.
you know, Joe, I like that idea. So if we said something like we have an expiration date to this ordinance and then look back and see were there accidents, were there, you know, yeah, absolutely. We can, you know,
Yeah.
and somewhere the CAD, you know, we changed the call now to, you know, a type of vehicle being the golf cart, and we can go look back in all the call volume involving golf carts, whether it's accidents or infractions or town ordinance tickets and everything else. We could see how much activity.
Yeah, total
Yeah.
violations, right?
Yeah,
So
exactly.
we see what we're looking at. If we have, like, you know, we find this incredible wave of violations, then yeah, maybe it's probably not a good idea. But
Right.
if everybody's, you know, abiding by it, then
Sure.
hey, it is what it is.
Okay. Yeah, that's something else to consider. Along with the safety, our recommendation is because of the police department here, along with the safety, the regulations and the enforcement is going to be the things that we would either recommend or not recommend to the council probably 3 or 4 months down the road after we have a couple more conversations. All right, so thanks for having that. I don't think we have any tabled items carrying over from last February. Anybody have any new or other business? Anyone? No. And or anything happening in your districts? Again, I want to touch on how well we survived the tropical storm, how great our public safety team all acted as a team. And again, hearing great feedback about the bike patrol guys as of recently, probably because I've been down at the green and people are finally getting out of their house slowly and safely, and they feel safe to see.
I've also seen the Marine Patrol out on the water. I was disappointed that they weren't out on the water the night the day of the Milford concert that they had at Charles Island. That was definitely a busy boat day, and there were some accidents that happened. I did see the Milford police out there. And I was just wondering how long the police boat's going to be in for the season.
That'll be Labor Day.
Labor Day?
That's correct.
Okay. And I'm wondering if on the citations for the boating, how many of those were for jet skis?
John, you on? Do you have those stats? You know what? He's not on. I will get them to you.
Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Bill, 1 second.
Go ahead.
Chief, are we hiring right now?
We're always hiring.
I don't think.
Always.
Say that again.
Yes. They're
Okay.
always.
Always hiring. Yeah, we'll never stop.
You're gonna retire and come
I
over?
get asked all the time. No. No. Not after what I just did. Fairfield's a nice place to work.
Good.
I love Stratford, but
What can you tell him, Joe? To go online or just contact the training lieutenant if he requests like that? Yeah.
No, what we do, everything is policeapp.com. Everything's right there. You take
Yep,
the test, you
yep,
get
okay.
this every month, you go right through the process, and you know, like I said, we're our drop rate's pretty severe. I mean, we were dropping probably 60% for candidates. So, but at some point we got to think about some certified guys. But you know, we're doing okay. We're holding on. I got 4 seats for Meriden coming up. We're trying to fill those now, but I expect 4 more retirements by January. So yeah, we're always hiring.
okay, thanks.
Also because it's a great place to work. I hear the chief's really great.
Great leadership from all over the town, including the college.
I've heard that too.
I have too. All right. That's that. Make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion.
Thanks, Jim.
Adjourn.
All right. Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. All right, guys. Thank you. Talk to you
Have a good
soon.
night, everybody.
Have a good
Thank you, everyone.
Night.
All right, good night, everybody.
Good night.